Hi, I'm Ren Ferguson of Gibson, Montana. In the middle 70s, I was enjoying more than maybe enjoying more success than I was capable of handling. I had a number of young luthiers interested in the craft of building instruments that had apprenticed to me. We started a small factory that kind of came on the heels of the success of building so many banjos that I had produced. I could produce a banjo sort of while you waited. I had lots of pre-cut blanks and choice of materials, laminating patterns, whatever style banjo you wanted to have made, whether it was tenor plectrum or 5-string. Made a lot of frailing banjos. You know, whatever somebody wanted, I could produce it pretty rapidly. Basically, I could have it completely finished, built in a day or two, and lacquered. If you came in on Monday, you could play it Friday. And I did a lot of them, and weren't building a lot of guitars. We're working on mandolins. A lot of these people were interested in learning the skills of joinery. Did not have a lot of power tools at that time. Had a good lacquer spray booth and the basic tools of joinery, but pretty much it was handwork. And we were trying to replicate the stuff that we had as samples in the shop, either original pieces, you know, or good notes and details taken off of originals. The guitars came sort of as a byproduct in the factory. There were a lot of guitars available, and there wasn't much of a demand for anything other than a herringbone D28. I had started playing bluegrass with my brother earlier, and that was sort of the vein I followed. There seemed to be enough guitars to go around, sort of, but there were no mandolins and no banjos, so that's pretty much what I put my focus in. I was buying banjo parts from different companies. Gibson supplied me with tone rings and flanges occasionally, and just whatever parts I might need that were hard parts. I wasn't in the position to make my own, and I couldn't find at this point, we're talking 74, enough components readily to keep in front of the demand for instruments. The quality of the instruments was good enough that it came to the attention of the Norland folks at Gibson, who decided that they should bring suit against me for making replicas of their instruments, and suggested that I cease and desist that, and which I did. I took that real seriously, having no resources to fight what I considered to be a giant. I just shifted from building mostly banjos and a few mandolins to making all flat top guitars, and basically built the successful models of Gibson and mostly Martin that everybody seemed to covet at the time. And continued with that until I decided I had been too successful and too reckless, had hunting accidents, spinal meningitis, a whole bunch of things kind of happened at the same time, and I closed my business, abandoned my family, and fled to the Rockies to be a cowboy. My idea of being a cowboy was pretty romantic, you know, riding the line, fence line, and staying in a line shack, and you know, just having nobody to talk to about my horse seemed like a really good idea. The reality was I landed in Driggs, Idaho, and got a job doing that, and my horse was a old steel wheelbarrow, and I was given a bale of wire and a fence post driver, a bunch of metal posts, a hammer, a stretcher, a bucket of staples, and the guy said, "Come back when you're empty." And for a few days, that's what I did. But that really wasn't what I had imagined I would be doing. And so I abandoned that and ended up moving into Colorado and worked as a carpenter with my brother in Aspen for a couple years during the good seasons, and would take off during the winter and trapped all over the western United States for fur bearers. And enjoyed that lifestyle of camping out in the winter and doing what I had envisioned was the way the West was opened and how I could participate in that. Led me to eventually move to Big Timber, Montana, where I worked as a gunsmith and a carpenter for a while. I was eventually discovered, in fact, my present wife that I've been married to for now more than 30 years, and I were living there in Big Timber. We'd been there for about 5 years, and I was going to tell her that I played guitar, or that I built them, but I hadn't got around to it yet. Well, I was doing other type of work, and survival seemed to be the most important thing, and somebody saw an article in an old guitar player magazine and called me out on it, and so I ended up starting to play in a church group that I traveled, and the fellow that owned Flatiron Mandolin got wind of the fact that I lived up in an area close to him, and that I might be of use to him as he expanded his then blossoming mandolin operation in Bozeman, Montana. Living 70 miles east of there, I had dropped over once and offered to do some custom work for him, but he didn't seem to be interested at the time. But now, a few years later, he wanted to grow. I was somebody who had experience in tool design and had a history of building some quality instruments, so he offered me a job. I was really busy at the time. I was working in the Christian band, and I was running my own business. I had a gun shop in town, and I worked at Shiloh Sharp's 40 hours a week, so I figured I was pretty well covered up. And he had tracked me down one evening at dinner at my pastor's home and said he wanted to hire me. And I said, well, gee, I've got all these things going. Thanks a lot, but I don't think I can do it. And he said, well, I really wish you'd reconsider. I'll pay you $1,800 a month. And I said, I'll see you in the morning. And so I drove to Bozeman, went through the factory, and gosh, he was just starting to build carved-top mandolins. I mean, he designed a machine, and it was automated beyond what I had done in the past, and I couldn't wait to join his team. And that kind of same story happened again. We got real good at manufacturing our product and got to the point where we could build more than we could actually sell. And we had talked about the great opportunity that we might be an OEM supplier to the Gibson Corporation, building these replica instruments of the early F-style mandolins. The day that offer was made to the owner of the company was actually the same day that he bought the company, and my current boss was feeling his oats, and when we offered it, he suggested again that maybe he would just sue us instead of buying mandolins from us and put us out of business, which we fled in terror again, which happens to be not the best answer, but it seemed appropriate at the time. Somewhere along the line in the next year or so, Stan at Mandolin Brothers convinced Henry that instead of putting us out of business, that the dent that was made by us not producing instruments was really hurting him, and that Gibson could maybe acquire us, buy our company, and literally own the mandolin business at that point, which is what Henry did. And he made the purchase for the mandolin company, I believe in February of '87. And it's been an incredible ride from that minute till right now. We first set about to increase the production of actual Gibson copies rather than a variation of the F-style instrument that we were building. We built A's, we built some mandolas, built a number of really fine instruments prior to Gibson getting involved. But once we had the horsepower of the association with Gibson, the sky was the limit. The challenge to me was to figure out how to build more and how to build better ones, and we did that. We rose to the challenge. We took on additional work from Nashville. We did manufacturers of archtop bridges and raised pick guards, and made peghead veneers for them. We did all kinds of work out of Nashville for them on different projects. We brought out the banjo line. We built their Master Tone line of banjos. We reissued all of those and continued to do that for a number of years.